So let's get started. Debbie, will you begin, please?
I will. And before we start, we have one housekeeping item. I think everyone saw the email from Lance today where he kindly provided how we can get the CD of Khenpo Samduk Rinpoche's teachings on the Bardo Thodol. And so that prompted me to think we're going into a wonderful phase now as we come up in the next couple of weeks on starting the Peaceful and Wrathful Deities, where we're likely to have, due to the generosity of Lance, more materials coming our way, photos and images of different kinds, red booklets, which he's offered to send to people, and there'll be more, I'm sure, given Lance's generosity. What I wanted to point out, because I just realized this myself, is that he's paying for printing and photocopying and postage out of his pockets. So I just wanted to suggest, without anyone feeling any obligation to do so, if from time to time, when you realize you've been getting a number of things, you feel inclined to write a check to Lance and send it to him, that would just help us all together, help him reimburse so he's not carrying the costs of all of us getting such materials. So I just wanted to bring it up now. There's, it's not a matter of a set amount or timing. If it's not something one is in a position to do, for heaven's sakes, don't worry about it. But just putting that out there, and I will put Lance's mailing address in the chat before the end of the evening. So you can write that down if you want, and send any checks made out to him personally. I also know Lance wants us to be very clear in understanding that these are not offerings for teachings. We're literally talking about covering his out-of-pocket costs for photocopying, printing, mailing, things like that. And of course, you're welcome to go to either Dharma Surya Center or any of the other sites you would like to make offerings in appreciation of the teachings anytime you would want to. So I just wanted to mention that. Lance, did I get that right? I want to make sure I'm not misrepresenting anything that would make you uncomfortable.
Yes, thank you very much for bringing that up. And yeah, we're all volunteers at Dharma Surya Center. So anything that comes in excess of what our expenses are will go back into Dharma Surya or make offerings to Khenpo Samduk. So the CDs that I had mentioned in the email I sent out, that cost goes to Khenpo Samduk, as well as some of the costs for the mailing and so on will be transferred for that. So just want you to know that that we're not trying to receive any extra money by doing this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lance. So I'm going to share the screen with the opening prayers here, and we will begin. And first, let's begin by taking several deep cleansing breaths. Let your belly fill on the in-breath with the wisdom and compassion of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And use your diaphragm to expel any foul air, any obstructions. And now let's relax, release, bring our minds home. Scan your body, release any tension. And assume your meditation posture. Release any mental, emotional baggage, anything that's weighing on your mind, set it aside. Just shed the speed and aggression of our crazy modern life. And bring your mind home to this time and place of study and practice together. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. And may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Very good. Thank you, Debbie. Okay, so let's begin tonight with the purification practice on page 14. So we've several times now have done the root verses of the 6 intermediate states, and we've done the natural liberation by habitual tendencies, the 10-branch prayer. So whenever we do a session, it is best if we have time to recite all these prayers. We have a limited amount of time, so we'll move on to the purification part now so that we can talk more about some new things tonight. So in order to read this, if we can have, let's see, Joanna, if you would read the page number 14, including the small print, the translation of the Sanskrit prayer that is there. And then Michael, if you will read page 15 up to the 100-syllable mantra, if you will read that, please. And then Gary, let me see, I'm going to ask, well, Gary, that's fine. Gary, if you will read the 100-syllable mantra, you will recite the 100-syllable mantra and we will all follow along. So that would be the bottom of page 15 and the bottom of page 16. Okay, so let's recite this. The Sanskrit prayer, if we can recite that 3 times, please, Joanna. So please carry on.
Natural liberation of habitual tendencies purification. Omahom bodhicitta mahasukha janadatu om rulu rulu hong jo hong. Omahom bodhicitta mahasukha janadatu om rulu rulu hong jo hong. Omahom bodhicitta mahasukha janadatu om rulu rulu hong jo hong. In the unified intention of the body, speech, and mind of the 42 peaceful and 58 wrathful deities of the great Buddha field that displays the wisdom that cuts through all ignorance to manifest their wisdom for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings. From the field of reality's expanse, uncreated and pure, within a celestial palace, which is a seminal point of light, pure, unceasing, and radiant, through the natural expressive power of one's own mind, uncontrived and empty, intrinsic awareness, radiant and empty, arises in the form of Vajrasattva, seated upon a bejeweled throne adorned with lotus, sun, and moon cushions.
The right hand holds a Vajra at the heart, symbolizing the union of awareness and of absolute wisdom and emptiness. The left hand supports a bell resting on the hip, symbolizing the union of wisdom, appearance, and emptiness. And the head is adorned with a garland of perfect Buddhas, representing the 5 enlightened families of those gone to bliss. Thus, Vajrasattva manifests in the form of the Buddha body of perfect resource, exquisitely adorned with silks and jewels, seated in the posture of royal ease, with the right leg extended and the left drawn in. Radiating at the heart is the seed syllable Hong, surrounded by the 100-syllable mantra.
Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishtadrido Me Bhava Sukto Kayo Me Bhava Suko Kayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuruham Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajra Mame Mutsa Vajri Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva.
I'll repeat a total of 3 times, please.
Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tinopa Tishtadredo Me Bhava Sutto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsa, sarva karma sutsa me, sitsan shriya kuruham, ha 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 ho, bhagavan, sarva tata gata, vajra mame mutsa, vajra bhava mahasamaya sattva Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Tenopa Tishta Drido Me Bhava Sutto Kiyo Me Bhava Supo Kiyo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuruham Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mutsa Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right, so now we turn to the page 67, to the aspirational prayer, calling to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for assistance. So this is a prayer that we recite each day as we begin to do the practice or recitation for someone for the Bardo Thodol practice. So please, Tom, will you recite page 67? Curtis, will you recite page 68 and 69, please?
Aspirational prayer, calling to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas for assistance. Recite each day. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, abiding in the 10 directions, refuge of living beings, imbued with compassion, imbued with knowledge, imbued with clear vision, and imbued with love. Come to this place by the power of your compassion and accept these displayed in visual offerings. O compassionate one, as you are the fountain of all-knowing, pristine cognition of loving compassion, of effective activities, and of a power to grant refuge beyond conception, come to this place. O compassionate one, this human being, O child of Buddha nature, Rikyabu, Tom Warfare, is leaving this world and journeying to another shore. She is being cast off from this world and approaching the great transition of death, suffering deeply. She is without a friend, without a refuge, without a protector, without a companion. Her perception of this life is fading away. She is moving on to another world, entering a dense darkness and falling into an unfathomable abyss. Entering the thick forest of doubt, she will be driven on by potency of past actions. She will be entering a great wilderness, born
away on a great ocean and driven on by the vital winds of past actions. She will be moving in a direction where there is no firm ground, entering a great battlefield, being seized by great malevolent forces, and becoming overwhelmed by fear and terror upon meeting the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. In accordance with her past actions, powerless to resist, she may even yet again be entering the realms of rebirth. The time has come when she has no choice but to move on, alone, leaving her dear friends behind. O compassionate ones, grant refuge now to this person. O child of Buddha nature, Rikyabu, Audrey, who has no refuge, protect her, be her companion, defend her from the great darkness of the intermediate state, turn back the great hurricane of past actions, protect her from the great fear and terror of the unfailing laws of cause and effect, rescue her from the long and dangerous pathways of the intermediate state. O compassionate ones, be unsparing in your compassion, grant assistance to her. Do not allow her to be expelled into the 3 kinds of inferior existence. Without wavering from your ancient vows, swiftly release the power of your compassion. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for the sake of this person, O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Audrey, be unsparing in your compassion. Do not allow this sentient being to fall into the power of negative past actions. O three precious jewels, protect us from the sufferings of the intermediate state.
Ahung. Debbie, will you read, please, page 67 again? And French and Gabrielle, will you read page 68 and 69? And then when they're finished, Sandra, will you read page 67 again? And Adrian, will you read page 68 and 69? You see, we repeat this 3 times.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas abiding in the 10 directions, refuge of living beings, imbued with compassion, imbued with knowledge, imbued with clear vision, and imbued with love, come to this place by the power of your compassion and accept these displayed and visualized offerings. O compassionate ones, as you are the fountain of all-knowing, pristine cognition, of loving compassion, of effective activity, and of a power to grant refuge beyond conception, come to this place. O compassionate ones, this human being, child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchok Lamo, is leaving this world and journeying to another shore. She is being cast off from this world and approaching the great transition of death. Suffering deeply, she is without a friend, without a refuge, without a protector, and without a companion. Her perception of this life is fading away. She is moving on to another world, entering a dense darkness and falling into an unfathomable abyss. Entering the thick forest of doubt, she will be driven on by the potency of past actions. She will be entering a great wilderness, born
away on a great ocean, driven on by the vital winds of past actions. He, she will be moving in a direction where there is no firm ground, entering a great battlefield, being seized by great malevolent forces, and becoming overwhelmed by fear and terror upon meeting the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. In accordance with his or her past actions, powerless to resist, he, she may even yet again be entering the realms of rebirth. The time has come when he, she has no choice but to move on alone, leaving his or her dear friends behind. O compassionate ones, grant refuge now to this person, child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, French, who has no refuge. Protect him, her, be his, her companion. Defend him, her from the great darkness of the intermediate state. Turn back the great hurricane of past actions. Protect him, her from the great fear and terror of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. Rescue him, her from the long and dangerous pathways of the intermediate state. O compassionate ones, be unsparing in your compassion. Grant assistance to him, her. Do not allow him, her, to be expelled into the 3 kinds of inferior existence. Without wavering from your ancient vows, swiftly release the power of your compassion. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for the sake of this person, child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, French, be unsparing in your compassion. Do not allow this sentient being to fall under the power of negative past actions. O 3 precious jewels, protect us from the sufferings of the intermediate state. Om, Ah, Om.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas abiding in the 10 directions, refuge of living beings, imbued with compassion, imbued with knowledge, imbued with clear vision, and imbued with love, come to this place by the power of your compassion, and accept these displayed and visualized offerings. O compassionate ones, as you are the fountain of all knowing, pristine cognition, of loving compassion, of effective activity, and of a power to grant refuge beyond conception, come to this place. O compassionate ones, this human being, child of Buddha nature, Rikyabu, Elvira Silva Costa, is leaving this world and journeying to another shore. She is being cast off from this world and approaching the great transition of death. Suffering deeply, she is without a friend, without a refuge, without a protector, and without a companion. Her perception of this life is fading away. She is moving on to another world, entering a dark, dense darkness and falling into an unfathomable abyss. Entering the thick forest of doubt, she will be driven on by the potency of past actions. She will be entering a great wilderness, born
away on a great ocean, and driven on by the vital winds of past actions. He'll be moving in a direction where there's no firm ground, entering a great battlefield, being seized by great malevolent forces, and becoming overwhelmed by fear and terror upon meeting the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. In accordance with his past actions, powerless to resist, he may even yet again be entering the realms of rebirth. The time has come when he has no choice but to move on alone, leaving his dear friends behind. O compassionate ones, grant refuge now to this person, Rikibum, Kelchen Gyaltso, who has no refuge. Protect him, be his companion, defend him from the great darkness of the intermediate state. Turn back the great hurricane of past actions. Protect him from great fear and terror of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. Rescue him from the long and dangerous pathways of the intermediate state. O compassionate ones, be unsparing in your compassion. Grant assistance to him. Do not allow him to be expelled into the three kinds of inferior existence. Without wavering from your ancient vows, swiftly release the power of pure compassion. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for the sake of this person, Rikibo, Gyalchen Gyaltso, be unsparing in your compassion. Do not allow this sentient being to fall under the power of negative past actions. O three precious jewels, protect us from the sufferings of the intermediate state. Om Ahom.
Thank you. So as it says here in the italics, it says read aloud 3 times by oneself and all others present. May its impact not cease until cyclic existence has been emptied. Let good auspices prevail. So Om Ahom is the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha and all the enlightened ones. Om Ahom. So we visualize that our body, speech, and mind becomes inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. So this is a refuge to the 3 jewels. So that's the significance of Om Ahom. So now we turn to page 70, and we're going to examine this part 1. And so I would like to have you all read this. So we need to, let's see. So Jane and Jerry, would you read page 70, please, including the titles? So all of page 70. It says, at the bottom, it says, repeat many times for the dying person to hear. So read it 3 times, please, Jane and Jerry. And then Vajra family. So I see Barbara is there, Robert maybe not there. So Barbara, will you read the next page 71? I only need to read that 1 time. Then Louisa, the next you will read page 72, please. And then page 73, let's see. Kate, are you reading tonight? Kate T?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you read page 73, please. Then Amanda, will you read page 74? And Eileen, please read page 75. And then we'll go back to the beginning and have a discussion about this section here. So please begin. I think it was Jane and Jerry were beginning, and you need to turn your microphone on, please.
Pardon me. Part 1, an elucidation of the intermediate state of the time of death and the appearance of the peaceful deities in the intermediate state of reality. Introduction to inner radiance in the intermediate state of the time of death.
O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, name, the time has come for you to seek a path. As soon as your respiration ceases, the luminosity known as the inner radiance of the first intermediate state, which your spiritual teacher formally introduced to you, will arise. Intermediately, your respiration ceases. All phenomena will become empty and utterly naked like space. At the time, a naked awareness will arise, not extraneous to yourself, but radiant, empty and without horizon and center. At that moment, you should personally recognize this intrinsic nature and rest in the state of that experience. I too will introduce it to you at the same time. Part 1, an elucidation of the intermediate state of the time of death and the appearance of the peaceful deities in the intermediate state of reality. Introduction to inner radiance in the intermediate state of the time of death.
O child of Buddha nature, Rigsby Bu name, the time has come for you to seek a path. As soon as your respiration ceases, the luminosity known as the inner radiance of the first intermediate state, which your spiritual teacher formally introduced to you, will arise. Immediately your respiration ceases, all phenomena will be empty and utterly naked like space. At the same time, a naked awareness will arise, not extraneous to yourself, but radiant, empty, and without horizon and center. At that moment, you should personally recognize this intrinsic nature and rest in the state of that experience. I too will recognize it to you at the same time. An elucidation, part 1, an elucidation of the intermediate state of the time of death and the appearance of the peaceful deities in the intermediate state of reality. Introduction to inner radiance in the intermediate state of the time of death.
O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, name, the time has come for you to seek a path. As soon as your respiration ceases, the luminosity known as the inner radiance of the first intermediate state, which your spiritual teacher formally introduced to you, will arise. Immediately your respiration ceases, all phenomena will become empty and utterly naked like space. At the same time, a naked awareness will arise, not extraneous to yourself, but radiant, empty, and without horizon and center. At that moment, you should personally recognize this intrinsic nature and rest in the state of that experience. I too will introduce it to you at the same time. No, we did 3 times.
Now the sign of the dissolution of earth into water is present, of water into fire, fire into wind, wind into consciousness. If the dying is a spiritual teacher, recite, O Venerable One, I beg you not to be distracted from the cultivation of an altruistic intention. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, name, that which is called death has now arrived. Therefore, You should adopt an altruistic motivation and concentrate your thinking as follows. I have arrived at the time of death. So now, relying on the process of death, I will single-mindedly cultivate an altruistic intention. I will meditate on the generation of loving kindness, compassion, and altruistic intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings who are as limitless as space. I must attain perfect Buddhahood.
And in particular, you should think at this moment, for the sake of all sentient beings, I must recognize the time of death as the arising of inner radiance, the Buddha body of reality, and while in that state, I must attain the supreme accomplishment of the Great Seal, and thereby act for the good of all sentient beings. If I do not achieve this accomplishment, then recognizing the intermediate state as it is, I will actualize the consultant Buddha body of the Great Seal during the intermediate state, and thereby manifesting in order to instruct each in accordance with his or her needs. I will act for the benefit of all sentient beings who are as limitless as space, without giving up the focus on cultivating an altruistic intention for the above way. Recollect the meditative experiences which you formally develop in the basis of the oral teachings.
When the respiration has ceased and the two carotid arteries have been firmly pressed, remind the dying person with the following words, if the individual was a spiritual teacher or a spiritual friend greater than oneself. O Venerable One, the inner radiance of the ground is now arisen before you. Recognize it and concentrate directly on its experiential cultivation. For all others, one should introduce the inner radiance of the ground with the following words. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu name, listen, pure inner radiance, reality itself is now arising before you. Recognize it, O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu name. This radiant essence that is now your conscious awareness is a brilliant emptiness. It is beyond substance, beyond characteristics, and beyond color, completely empty of
inherited existence in any respect whatsoever. This is the female Buddha Samantabhadri, the essential nature of reality. The essence of your own conscious awareness is emptiness. Yet this is not a vacuous or nihilistic emptiness. This, your very own conscious awareness, is unimpededly radiant, brilliant, and vibrant. This conscious awareness is the male Buddha Samantabhadra, the utterly indivisible presence of these two, the essence of your own awareness, which is empty, without inherent existence with respect to any substance whatsoever, and your own conscious awareness, which is vibrant and radiantly present, is the Buddha body of reality. This intrinsic awareness, manifest in a great mass of light, in which radiance and emptiness are indivisible, is the Buddha nature of unchanging light, beyond birth or death. Just to recognize this is enough. If you recognize this brilliant essence of your own conscious awareness to be the Buddha nature, then to gaze into intrinsic awareness is to abide in the enlightened intention of all the Buddhas.
Introduction to the radiance of the path. O child Buddha nature, Rikjibu name. Meditate on this, you meditational deity. Do not be distracted. Concentrate intently on your meditational deity. Meditate that the deity appears and yet is without inherent existence, like the reflection of the moon in water. Do not meditate on the deity as a solid corporeal form. Meditate on the Lord of great compassion.
Thank you. So here, the great Lord of Compassion, of course, is Maha Karunika, is Avalokiteshvara Shenreze. So at this time, we could recite the mantra, the liberation mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, circling around the seed syllable Shri. So Om Mani Padme Hum Shri, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. And we sent the mantra to you, the recitation by Garchen Rinpoche, being done at Garchen Buddhist Institute. So if you've had a chance to listen to that, or you'll have a chance tomorrow or sometime, but that melody is very, very, very powerful. So it would be very wonderful to be able to memorize that. So now we go back to the beginning of this section, page 70. So first, does anybody have any questions or comments about what we've done so far?
I'll ask about the carotid arteries later.
Okay.
Lance,
Right.
could you mention again the name of the deity you just mentioned before you said Avalokiteshvara?
His name that they use in the Bardo Thodol is Maha-Karunika. Maha-Karunika. So Maha, of course, means great. Karun means compassion. And Ika, having the suffix of Ika, makes it a personification of that compassion. So therefore, it is a synonym for Avalokiteshvara or Shenreze, Maha-Karunika.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is part one. So now what we have been talking about, that there are 6 human realms, 6 bardos. That's what I mean to say, not human realms, but 6 bardos. So the 6 bardos are the living bardo, which we are living in right now. And during this living bardo, we experience the dream bardo, and we can experience the meditation bardo, both within the living bardo. When our body has expired, then we are forced to enter into the bardo of death. So that's what this section here is addressing, is that bardo of death. It is very, very, very short, but it is very, very, very charged, very, very powerful. So being aware of this and being prepared for this is paramount in our practice awareness. So everything that we're doing really is to get ourselves to be able to pass through this bardo of death with no hindrances, no obstructions, to make it very peaceful, to make it very natural. Then once we pass through the bardo of reality, if we haven't been able to realize our true nature, then we enter into the bardo of reality. And here is where we meet the peaceful deities and the wrathful deities and all the combinations of their work in order to help us to remember our true nature. If we fail to do that, then we move into the bardo of becoming, or the bardo of rebirth, where we are seeking to have a new body in some way or another. And so we will explore all of this later on, but right now, in this section here, we're concentrating on the bardo of death. So this is the elucidation of the intermediate state of the time of death and the appearance of the peaceful deities and the intermediate state of reality. So here we're not going into a lot of detail about the migration of the energies of the body and the fluids of the body and so on in this section here. Right now, it's very, very spiritual, and it's really concentrating on the on one who is an advanced master. This could be a lay person as well as a monastic. It's not limited to a monastic, and it's not exclusive of lay people. So we can be able to stabilize this awareness so that when we pass, we are able to recognize this true nature and be liberated immediately in this bardo. So here is the introduction to inner radiance in the intermediate state of the time of death. O child of Buddha nature, Ricky Boo, your name or the name of the person, the time has come for you to seek a path. You have to seek a path. Is it going to be liberation? Or is it going to be rebirth? Or is it going to be no path at all because you're totally unprepared for this? As soon as your respiration ceases, the outer breath, the luminosity known as the inner radiance of the first intermediate state. The first intermediate state is the bardo of living, what we are experiencing now. And this luminosity, we see all this stuff, all this appearances because it's been illuminated by the sun and so on like that. And we're able to recognize these appearances. So your spiritual teacher has formally introduced this to you, and this will arise. So through the teachings that we would have gone through with learning the Dharma and learning all the virtues and the non-virtues and the poisons and the emotions and all the different aspects of being a human being, being a living being that are all identified in the jewel ornamental liberation, composed by Gampopa, then this is what this is referring to. So we need to understand what this is in its spiritual form as it manifests into its practical form, into its phenomenal form, in order that we may not be held back by it, that we see its empty nature, that we see that it is all a fabrication of our minds and so on. So immediately your respiration ceases, all phenomena will become empty and utterly naked like space. So at this time, we have this, the liberation of our inner breath. And with this inner breath, we see all this phenomenal nature. So many people talk about, seeing this white light or something like that, seeing some kind of, powerful thing. And they're seeing this phenomenal nature all compressed into this visualization that they're either attracted to and want to come back to, or they're able to liberate from and go into the bardo of death and into the bardo of reality if that's necessary. So we recognize this. So we familiarize ourselves through our meditations in this life. Every meditation has the potential to be a rehearsal for the bardo of death. Every meditation should be a rebirth for ourselves. We enter into this meditation with a set of circumstances, with a set of conditions and so on that we have prepared for ourselves. And then we want to liberate them, and we're practicing that liberation. And then if our meditation is successful, if that practice is successful, we will have at least a moment of liberation. And then we will familiarize ourselves more and more with that experience, so that when we are dropping our body, then we will be familiar with that process, and we will not be have fear for that. We will be totally prepared for that. So it says, all phenomena will become empty and utterly naked like space. So in that moment that we see that white light, that phenomenal nature, We recognize it as emptiness. We recognize it as fabrication of our mind. We recognize it as just this confused state that is now being overcome, that is being liberated. What naked like space. So to ponder this, to contemplate this is very powerful. All this is for us to contemplate and to meditate upon. At the same time, a naked awareness will arise, not extraneous to yourself, not outside of ourselves, within ourselves, but radiant, empty, and without horizon or center. In other words, that it is omnipresent, and that we are omnipresent in that. There's no separation. At that moment, you should personally recognize the intrinsic nature and rest in the state of that experience. I too will introduce it to you at the same time. So we experience that through our meditation. Again, every meditation is a rehearsal for that over and over again. The more that we do it, we don't do it in 5 minutes. It's not that kind of thing. It may not happen in a week. It may not happen in a month. It may not happen in a year or several years. But the more that we do it, the more we get glimpses of that. We've been there many times. We've been born many times. We've died many times. The more we let our fear go, the more that we let our emotions go, the more that we recognize our true nature wisdom, the more familiar that becomes, and the more we remember the subtlety of all of this that is beyond conceptualization. This is what we're trying to do, is to get ourselves beyond conceptualization, beyond the fabrications of what we think this is. So along with this, the reader will continually be a guide to the person who is passing through the bardo of death, to help them to recall this. It's important for the person who is passing to have these teachings. If you're reading this to someone who's never had these teachings, then it's a good thing to do, because you're charging the atmosphere, if you will. You're charging the space with this spirituality for many, many beings. And as you're doing this, you should also be understanding that you're doing this for all beings, because we're all part of the same thing. It doesn't have to be just this unique thing. It's for all things. So it's not in vain if you're doing it for someone who does not have these teachings. You're also doing it for yourself. But how much powerful it is if we have prepared ourselves for this, so that we are like waiting for this energy to come to us to guide us through the bardos, because we've received these teachings, we've contemplated these teachings, and we've come to some degree of embodiment of these teachings. So this is why we repeat this many times. So now it says on page 71, it says, now the sign of the dissolution of earth into water is present, of water into fire, of fire into wind, and wind into consciousness. So here it doesn't go into a lot of detail. In other practices, in particular the POA practices, it goes into considerably more detail about this process. And the POA, my understanding of this is the POA is designed for those who are unfamiliar with this process, to help as an emergency method to guide someone through this bardo, someone who's not engaged in these teachings or contemplations or meditations. So more detail is required, more preparation at that immediate time is necessary, and so on. Here at this time, we're kind of assuming that the person has had some degree of familiarity with the Bardo Thodol. So a great deal of explanation is not required. So in particular, it says, if the dying is a spiritual teacher, someone who is really very subtly transcendent, someone who has embodied these teachers, then we recite this for them. O venerable one. And if you know anything about the monastics, the high monastics, particularly in the Pure Land practices, in the Pure Land body of Buddhism, and in the Hinayana, the Theravadan, they refer to the monastics as venerable, O venerable one. We may say in Vajrayana, we may say O Lama, Jupan, or Kempo, et cetera, et cetera. But in the older schools, they will say venerable. So here, O venerable one, I beg you not to be distracted from the cultivation of an altruistic intention. So here, this master, this great venerable, is passing through this bardo, and they have to recall their altruistic intention, that in this charged time, that they do not need to be hindered in any way. They need to be guided through to remind them of their altruistic intention. We say, O child of Buddha nature, Ricky-bu in their name, that which is called death is now arrived. Therefore, you should adopt an altruistic motivation and concentrate your thinking as follows. I have arrived at the time of death. So now, relying on the process of death, I will single-mindedly cultivate an altruistic intention. I will meditate on the generation of loving kindness, compassion, and an altruistic intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings who are as limited as space. I must attain perfect Buddhahood. Now, this might sound familiar to you because here it says, I have arrived at the time of death, relying on the process of death, the process of transformation, the process of meditation. I will single-pointedly concentrate. Have we talked about single-pointedly being able to develop your meditation? And it's not something we do in 5 minutes. It's not something we do in a day or in a weekend or in a month or a year. It takes a long time to be able to get the skill, to be able to have that one-pointed, that single-minded focus. So here it's calling upon that. And here it's an imperative because you're in this bardo of death. If you don't do it now, what else can you say? So I will single-mindedly cultivate an altruistic intention. I meditate on the generation of loving kindness, compassion, and an altruistic intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of beings. How about the stages of meditation? I know a number of you have joined Kempo Samdup, and in his book called The Stages of Meditation. And he goes through those stages. First, we talk about the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. Then we talk about loving kindness. Then we talk about compassion. Then we talk about bodhicitta. Then we talk about shamatha meditation. Then we talk about complete generation stage, and so on and so on. So this is the process. This is the teaching. This is the practice that we need to do in order to be able to be successful at this stage of the process of passing into the bardo of death. So we have the tools to do this, and we have to seize the opportunity to do this. So it's not unfamiliar. For the benefit of all sentient beings who are as limitless as space, I must attain perfect Buddhahood. So in the Mahayana, everything is for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings. So we have to recognize that this is our motivation. So here we're reminding a venerable, We're reminding a great practitioner, but it's not limited to someone who is a monastic. It can be any one of us, whether we are a monastic or we are a layperson. So then we come to page 72, and then it says, and in particular now, I think, or you should think, at this moment, for the sake of all sentient beings. Now I'm in this bardo of death, and I'm thinking about the benefit of others. I must recognize the time of death as the arising of inner radiance, the inner light, the inner radiance, the Buddha body of reality. This is the bardo of reality. This is all the 100 deities, the peaceful deities and the wrathful deities. And while in that state, I must attain the supreme accomplishment of the Great Seal. The accomplishment of the Great Seal is the Mahamudra. Mahamudra, the Great Seal. I'm sure you've all heard that before, but here it is. Here it is. This is the practical application of why we are learning the Great Seal, because the Mahamudra, the Great Seal, is that mind of enlightenment. Now, we may not have made it completely stable in our lives. We're working on it. As we are human beings, and so we're working, whether we're a monastic or we are a layperson, we're working on it. But that's what we are working for, is that mind of enlightenment, that Mahamudra, or the Dzogchen, or the Rigpa, all these different names that are used for this. I must recognize at the time of death the arising of inner radiance, the Buddha body of reality. This Buddha body of reality. And while in that state, I must attain the supreme accomplishment of the Great Seal and thereby act for the good of all sentient beings. Now, if we have perfected our Mahamudra, if we are stable in our Mahamudra as we are entering into the bardo of death, then there's no need for the bardo of reality. We are already in the bardo of reality. We don't even notice that we dropped our body because we are completely stable in the bardo of that true nature, of that non-conceptual, of that inexpressible. So there's no need to even, these words won't even be heard by the person who is passing, because they will already be there. But for those who are not, then we're guiding them now to the bardo of reality, to guide them into the peaceful deities and the wrathful deities, and doing it for the good of all sentient beings. If I do not achieve this accomplishment, then recognizing the intermediate state as it is, and recognizing this bardo of death as it is, and thereby, recognizing the intermediate state as it is, I will actualize the coalescent Buddha body of the Great Seal during the intermediate state, and thereby manifesting in order to instruct each in accordance with his or her needs. So this is saying that if you need the guidance, I will be there to help you with the guidance. I will actualize the coalescent Buddha body of the Great Seal during the intermediate state, thereby manifesting in order to instruct each in accordance with his or her needs. So whatever that person is who's passing, everybody's going to approach it at different levels. Some people are going to be able to go right into it. Some people are going to be here, some people here, and so on. But I'm going to recite it to all beings and say the same things to all beings. Some people are going to hear it at this level, some people at this level, some people at that level. I'm going to say it all to everybody during the intermediate state, and thereby manifesting in order to instruct each in accordance with his or her needs. I will act for the benefit of all sentient beings who are as limitless as space. So this is when you're reciting this, like I said a few moments ago, whether the person that you're reciting for has heard this before or not, it's still going out to all these beings who are caught in the bardo, who are in the bardo right now. So it's charging that energy. Remember, everything is just an illusion that we think things are permanent and things are defined and so on, and things have limits. But no, everything is, all this is all pervasive wisdom. So wherever we are, whenever we are, it's all the same. Without giving up the focus on cultivating an altruistic intention, without giving up the focus on cultivating an altruistic intention in the above way, recollect the meditative experiences which you formerly developed on the basis of the oral teachings. So if you've been with Kempo or any of the other great teachers who have taught you about deity yoga and taught you about the recollection of the deity, this is what we're talking about here. To remember the attributes of the deity, to remember the implements of the deity, the appearance of the deity, but most important, what the activity of that deity is, to recollect that and to align yourself with that. And then, so recollect the meditative experiences that you had. Now, if you're doing meditation, or if you're doing practices and not having these experiences, well, it means you need to work a little harder. And maybe not a little harder, a whole lot harder. Now, I know we all have priorities. I know, many of us are young adults. Some of us are middle age. We have responsibilities with our families and our jobs and so on. And we need to respect those things. And they become part of our Dharma practice. But at the same time, we shouldn't be wasting time doing frivolous things and losing opportunity to really develop our awareness of our Buddha nature and so on. And to be able to put ourselves in a process that if now we are going through this stage where we are building our families, building careers that are necessary, in order that later in our lives, when we have time to retire, when we have times to manage our lives in a different way, that we are prepared then to really engage in our spiritual practices. So that we have a nest egg to help us to do that, that we have a plan to do that, and that we see that through. So without giving up the focus on cultivating an altruistic intention in the above way, recollect the meditative experiences which you formerly developed on the basis of the oral teachings. So most of all, this comes from the oral tradition. It's written down for us, but so much more of it, even though we have these written things, so much more of it is revealed to us through the teachings of the monastics and of the yogis, those who have experienced this for themselves, who are sharing their secret experiences with you and how precious they are. And don't be fooled that only those who are wearing robes are the only ones that have these experiences. There are many, many, many bodhisattvas among us. There are many, many yogis among us. There are many, many Buddhas among us, past, present, and future, who have not bound themselves up in the monastic tradition. The monastic tradition is a very noble tradition, and I'm not disparaging it at all. But I'm just saying that we have to keep an open mind to everyone. Everyone is our teacher. The guru is everywhere, and we need to open that up and recognize that you are the Buddha. You are the one. Whether you are a layperson or you are a monastic, it's within you. So just because you're not a monastic, you don't want somebody saying, oh, you can't go there. Oh, you can't be liberated. Oh, you can't go into the Bardo of reality. Or you are destined, you must be reborn again as a human being. I don't think anybody wants somebody to tell them, you have to think that, you have to behave that way. We all can be liberated in this lifetime. If not in this lifetime, in the next lifetime, but it's all about our focus. It's all about our process. It's all about having our plan, so to speak. Okay, page 73. When the respiration has ceased and the two carotid arteries have been firmly pressed, remind the dying person with the following words: if the individual was a spiritual teacher or a spiritual friend greater than oneself. So here the carotid arteries are here in the neck, and this pulse, you can feel this pulse, and this is the blood going up into the brain. So when this is quiet, when this is stopped, this is an assurance that the person has the outer breath has gone and that their body is dead. So I don't know if there's anything more that needs to be said about that. Michael, you had a question about that. Does that answer the question enough, or do you have something else about that?
Yeah, I would like to keep an open mind about what that physical process entails. Whatever's going on with the touching there, whether it's a pressing or there's merely pulse taking. Yeah, I'm not sure. I get the impression that the hands-on is helping the individual move on.
Well, it's not helping them to move on. It's helping the Lama and the people around to recognize the state of the person who's lying there. Put this in a perspective. And if you've seen the videos that we've shown, and this is, comes from the old country, so we have to look at it from that culture, that there they are laying with about, 10 covers on them. They don't have a stethoscope. They don't have the ability to peel back the covers and put their ear on their chest and listen for their heart. But what they can do is take their hand and they can feel the carotid arteries. And by way of that, they determine whether the person has passed or not, whether the body has died or not. So to me, it's a very practical thing.
Yeah. Okay.
There may be more. I keep an open mind about all these things, but to me, it's just the practical awareness of whether the person has passed or not.
Oh, Lance?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
The only other thing I heard mentioned once is, since this feeling of the arteries is right on the border between the end of the outer dissolution of the sense faculties and the elements, the ceasing of respiration at clinical death is what we define it, at least in the West, and then moving into the inner dissolution, that these arteries lie over the right and left channels. And so perhaps some lamas also, in kind of higher yogic terms, are in some way reminding the person who's dying that the next phase that's now beginning is the dissolution of those red and white essences, and they're merging in the central channel. So I've just heard it mentioned that.
No, and that makes sense. That makes sense. And the Lama, the attending Lama, may say, well, we're not going to proceed into the Bardo Thodol until, this pulse has stopped.
Yes.
We're going to remain where we are, but then when he's assured that it has passed, then they continue on into the Bardo Thodol. So, okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. All right. Okay, so now we're in the middle of page 73, and it says, if the individual was a spiritual teacher or a spiritual friend greater than oneself, then we recite, O venerable one, the inner radiance of the ground is now arisen before you. Recognize it and concentrate directly on its experiential cultivation. So the spiritual ground is rising up, and being able to recognize that ground as liberation, as enlightenment. We're already enlightened, we just don't recognize it. But here, as this ground rises up, if we're capable of recognizing it, then we're enlightened. So here it's calling the attention of the Venerable One to this. And then it says, for all others, one should introduce the inner radiance of the ground with the following words. So now the ground is coming up, but the other being may not be so stable, and that may not understand that, may not remember that, recollect that. So, O child of Buddha nature, Ricky Boo, listen. Pure inner radiance, reality itself, is now arising before you. Recognize it. O child of Buddha nature, Ricky Boo in his name. This radiant essence that is now your conscious awareness is a brilliant emptiness. It is beyond substance, beyond characteristics, and beyond color, completely empty of inherent existence in any respect whatsoever. This is the female Buddha Samantabhadri, the essential nature of reality, the essential nature of reality. So this is the display of this phenomenal nature, which is pure unto itself and is this essence, and being able to see it as all emptiness, being able to see it all in its perfect essence, beyond conceptualization. This has to be experienced. This is not an intellectual endeavor here. We can put ourselves in a frame to be able to allow ourselves to have this experience, but the experience is a transcendent experience. The essence of your own conscious awareness is emptiness. The essence of your own conscious awareness is emptiness. You're conscious, being aware of this, yet it is not a vacuous or nihilistic emptiness. This, your very own conscious awareness, is unimpededly radiant, brilliant, and vibrant. This conscious awareness is the male Buddha Samantabhadra. So this is the mind of the Buddha. The female is the display of the mind of the Buddha. Samantabhadra is the mind of the Buddha. Samantabhadri is the display of the mind of the Buddha. The utterly indivisible presence of these two, the essence of your own awareness, which is empty without inherent existence with respect to any substance whatsoever, and your own conscious awareness, which is vibrant and radiantly present, is the Buddha body of reality. The Buddha body of reality. So this is all the Buddhas. This is the 100 deities. This is the Buddha nature. This is our true nature. It has to be experienced. Here it's giving an intellectualization to what otherwise can't be intellectualized. And let this be a catapult. Let this be a springboard to be able to allow yourself to have this experience through meditating on this. Maybe this becomes a mantra. Maybe you repeat this over and over and over and over again, until from that, you leap. You actually exhaust the mental images that are being created by this intellectualization. And then you have this experience of openness, of this Bardo of reality, of this Buddha nature of reality, Buddha body of reality. This intrinsic awareness manifests in a great mass of light in which radiance and emptiness are indivisible. A great mass of light in which radiance and emptiness are indivisible is the Buddha nature of unchanging light beyond birth or death. It's not the light that we see with our eyes. It is a clear light. It is a light that is beyond description. It is a light that brings awareness, or it brings, it illuminates darkness. It illuminates ignorance. It is the light of experience. Beyond birth and death. We see birth and death then, we just see it as two sides of the same hand. You know, now all we see our life, and the death side is some kind of a mystery to us or something. But when we have these experiences, we say, oh, it's just the other side of this. And you begin to see it in this true nature. And you begin to see all this all coming into a equanimity. Equanimity. And we have loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Bodhicitta is born. Just to recognize this is enough. If you recognize this brilliant essence of your own conscious awareness to be the Buddha nature, then to gaze into intrinsic awareness is to abide in the enlightened activity of all the Buddhas. You can have a glimpse in your meditation of this. And if you are open to this, and you're not questioning this, and being able to dissect it in 24 different thousand ways to try and apprehend it, to comprehend it in our intelligence, which causes you to miss it, to lose it. But if you just abide in that glimpse that you had of that moment, you're there. It's really very simple. Ken Wilber, considered to be one of the great, if not the great philosopher of our time, who is my age and has written many, many books. And he says, we're all enlightened. You know, recognizing that is easy. What's hard is living an enlightened life. That once we have that recognition of enlightenment and now becoming the embodiment of that and being able to act that, to be able to act Mahamudra all the time, that's what's difficult. We make it difficult. We complicate things. We bring in all our emotions and all our ignorance, all our confusion of wisdom and so on like that. So as we purify and we go around the circle, but the circle's a spiral. And as we get closer and closer to the tip of the spiral, we're getting purer and purer and purer, simpler and simpler and simpler. That's what we're trying to do. And our life takes on different ways of expressing that. We start living a simpler life. We don't do many things that we used to do. We don't get emotional about things that we would have gotten emotional about and so on. And we can see those changes. So if you recognize this brilliant essence of your own conscious awareness to be the Buddha nature, then to gaze into intrinsic awareness is to abide in the enlightened intention of all the Buddhas, that you realize that your body, speech, and mind is inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the Buddhas. Everything I have and everything I do is loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Bodhicitta. So then the next page, 75, is Introduction to the Radiance of the Path. O child of Buddha nature, meditate on this, you meditational deity. Meditate on this, your meditational deity. Whoever it may be, your meditational deity may be Manjushri, it may be Medicine Buddha, it may be Shenreze, it may be Amitabha, your Yidam. Do not be distracted. Concentrate intently on your meditational deity. Meditate that the deity appears and yet is without inherent existence. Like the reflection of the moon in water, do not meditate on the deity as a solid corporal form. Meditate on the Lord of great compassion, Mahakarunika, Om Mani Padme Hum. So you could say Om Mani Padme Hum, which is perfect. But if you prefer to say Om Wagishvari Mum, Manjushri, or you wish to say Medicine Buddha, whatever mantra you wish to say is fine. So this brings me to this point of Om Mani Padme Hum. So I want to screen share this with you. So here, I presume everybody can see that. So here is Om Mani Padme Hum in black and white. So Om Mani Padme Hum. And in the center is the Shri syllable. Om Mani Padme Hum. Behold, the loose translation of this that most people would accept is behold the jewel in the lotus. And the Shri is the primary cause, the primal cause of this expression of liberation. Om Mani Padme Hum. Behold the jewel of enlightenment. Behold the jewel. So now in the liberation mantra, there are colors. And the colors respond to, this is the 6-syllable mantra, not including the Hri. The Hri is the center of this, the seed syllable. But Om Mani Padme Hum, 6 syllables. And here it is in the Sanskrit. Om Mani Padme Hum and Shri, and the 6 colors. And here it is in this form, the circular form, which we could visualize as being the mantra garland that is circling around, going round the Shri in a clockwise direction. So we'll come back to this for a moment. So I just want to point that we're coming, as we recite these mantras, which are the voicings, this is the voice, the speech of the Buddha that it pertains to. And this one, Om Mani Padme Hum, it's going around in a circular direction. So I encourage you, at least in the beginning, to get familiar with this. If you haven't done this, to take your right hand and bring your thumb and your little finger together and your 3 fingers together, representing the 3 jewels, going around in a circular direction around the seed syllable. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And the light from those syllables is going out in the 10 directions to all beings. And this is the liberation mantra going out to the Bardo, all 6 Bardos of all beings, to liberate all beings simultaneously. So this really helps you, I think, to stabilize your visualization of the mantra garland. If you have a Dharma wheel, that you rotate the Dharma wheel, and the Dharma wheels have, the prayer wheels, have inscribed on them in so many different ways, Om Mani Padme Hum. And inside of these prayer wheels are many, 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 many thousands, if not millions, of Om Mani Padme Hum and other mantras that are, inside these prayer wheels. So this is radiating in all directions to all people. We may not see the light, But if you close your eyes and you visualize that light, not as a light that we normally see, but as a clear light going to all beings, is very powerful. So to give more meaning to this, if we go back and we just look, Om, the white Om, it goes to the God realm. It is overcoming the pride of those God beings, the God realm beings, liberating the God realm beings. The green is the Ma, and this is going to the jealous gods, where jealousy and envy and greed and conflict are the hallmarks of the jealous God realm, liberating those beings from their conflict, liberating them from their jealousy, from their envy. The knee, here is the knee, the yellow knee. The knee is going to the human realm, to the human realm. So this is to overcome desire, to be able to apply loving kindness for this desire, to apply meditation, to apply bodhicitta, in all these cases to this. But as a human being, this yellow is the knee to the human realm. Then the pad is the blue, pad. Pad is this light blue, is the animal realm, whose obscuration is ignorance, is delusion. So this blue light, this light blue light of this syllable is going to the animal realm to help beings caught in the animal realm to liberate. The May, this vowel up here and the back down here, the Ma, is red, and this goes to the Preta realm. The Preta realm is the hungry ghost realm. The hungry ghost realm, they're suffering from misery, from greediness. So liberating the greediness, the miserliness of the hungry ghost, to liberate them. And then the dark blue is the hung. The hung syllable is dark blue, and it goes to the hell realm beings. And here the hell realm is suffering from hatred, from anger, from aggression, to be able to liberate those beings from their intense hatred that keeps them constantly in a rebirth of living and dying, being birthed and dying in the hell realm. So these 6 realms, these are the 6 realms: the God realm, the jealous God realm, the human realm, the animal realm, the Preta realm, and the hell realm beings, all being liberated by this liberation mantra that is circling this white Shri syllable, which is the primal cause. So when we recite this, that this is going to all beings, not just the being who is the one that we're focused upon, but to all beings and all the different realms. So this is the most powerful of all the mantras. Shenrezig Avalokiteshvara is the embodiment of all the activities of the Buddhas, all the qualities of the Buddhas, all subsumed into the compassion. The compassion is the actualization of the wisdom. If you have wisdom, but no means to be able to actualize it, then what good is that wisdom? Very little. But if you have the wisdom and the skillful means, the method to be able to actualize it, now there's transformation. There's transformation in other beings. There's transformation within yourself. To rise above yourself, to be able to see that you are as limitless as space. To be limitless in that way, in the Bardo Thodol. So going back again, when we talked about this is the Bardo of death, we can be liberated in the Bardo of death. If we are prepared, we are ready for that, then there is no need to go any further to immediately be liberated and become Buddha nature. Now, what does that mean? I can't say exactly what it means because I'm not a Buddha. But I can tell you that it is the expression, when we say that, is the expression of this bodhicitta. And to have this experience of this non-conceptuality is something as a human being we can cultivate, and we make broader, we make deeper, and we can encourage others to be able to have that experience. And we know of no being who has had this experience who has turned away from the experience to the point of saying that this was evil, or this was bad, or this was not to be done. There may have been those who may have been frightened by it. There may have been those who were not totally prepared for it. We've all experienced it. We've all been through the Bardo of death many times. So we can remember that. You can remember that fear. We've all had that fear. We share all this. So we can also overcome this. So by using the three faiths that we talked about, the yearning faith, the trusting faith, and the clear faith, to have faith in the system, to have faith in teachers, to have faith in ourselves that this yearning I have within me is valid. And then to be able to actualize it in these glimpses over and over again. And then we begin to develop the clear faith of the vision that, yes, this is what is happening. This is what we are engaged in. This is what we are here for. This is our primal cause to help other beings. And in the process, we become space. We become that which is indefinable, inexpressible. So any questions or comments?
I have a question, Lance.
Okay.
On page 71, where it says, if the dying is a spiritual teacher, recite. And it says, the old venerable one, I beg you not to be distracted from the cultivation of an altruistic intention. So if the person is not a spiritual teacher, do we just leave that particular sentence out?
I would recite it because you don't know what degree of a spiritual teacher they might be. There's no harm in reciting it.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And then my second question is Ricky Boo. Does that mean child of Buddha nature?
Yes.
So do we say child of Buddha nature and then also repeat it as Ricky Boo, or just one or the other?
I think it's your choice. I prefer to do it both ways.
Okay. All right.
I do it as a reminder, Ricky Boo, I think I like chanting in the Sanskrit, and I like knowing what it means in my language. So it helps me to stabilize my understanding of what I'm doing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lance.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not clear as to what point in the time does the individual who is dying have the perception, I've been here before, I've done this before. Are they given this eventually, or is this after this phase?
Well, I think that number one, it's our job now as being present now to be developing and familiarizing ourselves with that realization that we have been here many times and we've experienced this before. For those of us who are ignorant of that, then when they come to that Bardo of death, they may see this as light, as white light. They may have some stark realization. People have said they've seen their whole lives flash before them, like a movie and so on like that. So there's been many phenomena that has been related, has been, expressed in that situation. So I don't know if there is a hard, fast rule about it, but I think it's incumbent upon us to seize the opportunity to recognize that we've been there before and to familiarize ourselves with what it is to prepare for that and not to be held back by it, to be able to liberate ourselves.
There's many people who go through near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences where they actually have been in the reality. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know any of them when you talk to them, they ever say, I don't want to die. I don't want to go through what I did. They all have kind of joy and, joy that they don't want to leave. So that's why I'm interested in this.
Well, some do. Some do. And some, not everybody has that joy. Not everybody is willing to come back. Some people are saying, okay, it's time for me to die. Let me go.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Lance, I had a question. At that moment when we're with the person that's dying, and right at that moment when they take their last breath and we feel that they are passing, how important is it that they pass without having a wrong view or negative thoughts? Because that moment when they're passing, can't they create tremendous amount of negative karma at that moment, and completely all their practice they've done for their whole lives, or whatever portion of their lives, can be just completely shattered?
Yes, it's true. Yeah. So you want to be very peaceful. And if we are in the presence of somebody, we should be doing everything we can to remain calm and not be upsetting to others or upsetting to the person who is passing. And Debbie and I were talking about this earlier. We should not put ourselves in the situation of being the guide until we are very stable in this practice. Because if we are unstable in this and we reach a point of confusion ourselves or something, that immediately gets transmitted to this person because they are aware of what's going on. And they can sense changes in the atmosphere, if you will. And we can be a cause of that. So we need to take responsibility for this very seriously and be prepared if we are going to be a guide. We can do this from a distance. We can do this from our home, and someone passed away halfway around the world, because everything is we're all in the same place together at the same time, so to speak. So we need to prepare ourselves. That's why we do these opening prayers, that we are getting ourselves to have that one-pointed mindfulness of purity and purification in our minds and so on. So yes, so I hope that explains that. We don't want to upset anybody. And if they are upset, if we're not capable, if we don't have the wisdom, the skillful means to be able to settle somebody down, we can make it worse. So we have to be very careful in how we engage with somebody who is very fretful and so on. So we shouldn't think that because we've read this one time or several times even, that we have the wisdom and the skillful means to be able to do this for somebody. We can cause more trouble for them, not to mention, the trouble that it causes for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thomas, you're reminding me, Thomas, too, of how we're warned at the time of our own passing to be very careful about the thoughts we're having. And for example, not get annoyed if we think people aren't doing practices properly for us, or they're doing the wrong practices. And to have that pure perception of these are Buddhas doing these practices for me. And because it's just as you say, just in that instant, you can be causing yourself karmic harm.
Thank you, Deb.
So I have a question. Is the background noise too loud from where I'm at right now?
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear what you said.
Is the background noise too loud? Should I move rooms?
No, it's okay, but just
Okay. Is
ahead.
the opposite true as well? So we can, because while reading through the Bardo Thodol, it's my understanding that if we recognize the intent of seeing either the restful or the peaceful deities, if we understand the intent behind their appearance, then that potential karmic drag down, if you will, is neutralized, and you're able to move or progress as you're intended to, as you're supposed to. Is that correct?
It's certainly a great thought.
Okay.
To say for sure, I think doing something purely is better, of course, than doing nothing at all. So whatever you do, you take responsibility for, and you do it with no sense of pridefulness. And that you're doing it not just for that person, but you're doing it for all beings. So if you can liberate yourself from even that you are doing it for this one person, but you're doing it for all beings, helps you to cultivate that purity and maintain that purity, that there's no attachment on your side to that.
No attachment to the deity?
No attachment to the activity of the guidance of doing the Bardo Thodol.
I see. Yes.
That you are somehow responsible for the liberation of this person.
Yes, I understand. Yes, thank you.
The person has the karma. The person has that's their work. That's what they have to do. That's their karma. And we're there to add support to that. But our support should be without any expectations. And we're doing it as purely as we possibly can. And taking responsibility for it, in whatever manner.
Excuse me, to get a better idea of the actual what goes on during these days. The reason I ask is because I spent some time learning musical to sing in hospice, music that's been very uplifting, and it's wonderful. It makes you tear, and it brings love and care into your. And this is for the family and those in hospice, who are near the end, and it's very uplifting. So, in doing this actual work, Are there people that come in with music? Are there people like family that come in and give speeches about what wonderful person they were, to help them along? Because it might be some people, reading, but do you call in family to have nice things to say about their mother, their father, their sister, because they need help to not go into the negatives as we were talking about. And what better thing to do is to have your mother or your father, your grandfather be present to say what wonderful things about you. So, I don't have the concept of how this is done, or is it only reading out of the text, chanting, and if you could help me to understand this a little more, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'm certainly not an expert and to answer that question. And I think the question is really steeped in a culturalism, what the way in which the person and the family, have engaged their lives and so on, and that meaning. I think from the point of view of the Bardo Thodol, it's an experience that should be maintained as a spiritual experience. And what we are trying to do is to allow ourselves to not be pulled back, to not be attached, to not feel those things, not to have any aversions. So whether or not these are things that are dealt with, weeks before someone passes. It's obvious that someone's going to pass, and they do something like that. I'm not the best person to answer a question like that. I don't know. But my experience, what I've seen is that this is done as an exclusive practice to help the person have a spiritual death and into the Bardo, and maybe liberation, and if coming back into the Bardo, that they into being reborn, that is done in a pure way and so on. So that's my response to it. It's a good question for maybe a Lama or some other people have more experience with this than I do.
Thank you.
May I say something to this, Lance?
Sure.
My 2 cents to it, the way that I see it is that I think it'll be good to have, songs or any kind of activities to comfort the person that is dying. But in the same time, to keep in mind that this is one of the most important processes in somebody's life. And at some point, it can be a distraction from having a single mind concentration focused on what's happening in the Bardos and what the meditation process is about, and the ultimate goal being enlightenment. So yeah, I think anything that we do, it can be performed up to the point where it's not, in my opinion, a distraction to the person that is passing. That's how I see it. Thank you, Lane.
Okay.
Lance, can I
Yeah,
say something?
of course.
When my dad was in the process of dying, my mom, she turned on, I gave her a CD of Garden Rinpoche, the CD on Mane Padme Home, and I asked her to turn it on for him every day to listen to it. So I think it's really helped him. But I know that during that time, he's seeing a lot of things, seeing a lot of people, the relative who passed away, come visiting him. So he talks a lot about the past, and he talk about his working, tell my mom that he's busy working, making money. He's seen a lot of things, like my uncle who already passed away come visiting him, and he talk about all the old relatives, But what I asked my mom, just keep playing the CD for him, let him listen to it, the prayers. So I think it's really helps. Yeah.
Okay.
Lance, I wanted to circle back to something you said that I just felt was really important and good to be reminded of. When we're doing our practice now, you know, the importance of doing it with real focus and intention, and opening ourselves up to these experiences now, so that we're like that child running to its mother's lap, as they say. You reminded me that the other thing I've realized over time is that I have a tendency, and maybe some others do too, to kind of miss the glimpses or discount them after they happen, or be in a hurry to go on to the next one. And I was just remembering, as you were talking, of how one time Sogya Rinpoche was telling how a student came to him. He'd been sitting on a rock meditating, and all of a sudden he just had this wonderful experience where his mind stopped and his heart just flooded open. And he jumped up and came running into Rinpoche and said, Rinpoche, Rinpoche, this is what just happened. What should I do now? And he said, go back to the rock. And just that reminder that these glimpses we get are really, they're precious, they're it. And to revisit them and bring them up again and work with them and let them be part of our being. And I think we tend to think, oh no, that's not it. That's not it. It's got to be something with, you know, bands playing and angels flying, and it's got to be bigger than this, rather than just going, no, that was a really special moment when my heart opened and my mind stopped, and work with it, go back to it, go back to that rock. So I just wanted to say thank you. You reminded me of all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, we can have one practice, or excuse me, we can have one teaching and practice many, many, many times and have enlightenment. We can have many, many practices, excuse me, many, many teachings, but no practices. And we just become, you know, a librarian. You know, we don't know what it means. We don't know what the experience is. So this whole thing is about experience, isn't it? Everything is guiding us to the experience.
I have a friend who passed recently, and the minister was present. A Christian minister was present when the person passed with the family, and she said there was such peacefulness at the moment of passing among the family and with the person who passed, Audrey, who I mentioned the name of when I read today, that she was very aware that she didn't need to say anything. The typical words of clergy. She knew that the space was full, and that in some way the words would maybe diminish it, or were just not necessary. And I can't help but see the parallels to some of what we're talking about.
Okay, well, let's close it out tonight by reciting the liberation mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. So with the melody that of Gotcha Rinpoche. And so visualize all those beings in the Bardo, and that the 6 lights going to those beings, liberating them in the different realms. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Hung Shri. Aum Mani Padme Hung Shri. Aum Mani Padme Hung Shri. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri 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 Aum Mani Padme Hum Shri Aum Mani Padme Hum Shri Om 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 Mani Padme Hum Shri Aum Mani Padme Hum Shri Aum Mani Padme Hum Shri Om Mani Padme Hum Shri Om Mani Padme Hum Shri Om Mani Padme Hum 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 Shri. Okay, thank you. If we can just do a simple dedication prayer. I'll put this on the screen here. Debbie, will you recite this, please?
By this virtue, may I achieve all knowingness by defeating all enemies' confusion. May all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of suffering. As Manjushri the warrior realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings.
Om, ah, hum. Om, ah, hum. Om, ah, hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. Thank you all very much tonight.
Let it be so.
Thank you.